Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, member of Homeland Security and Foreign Relations Committees. Great to have you in focus today, Senator. Let's start with what we're seeing, and that is what I call a leveling up. Potentially more of this from activists, and it's getting gory.
Well, good morning, Harris. I could not agree with Senator Lee more. Sadly, every day is becoming more obvious. We do not have equal justice in this country. We have two-tier justice system, one justice system for Democrats and their elite friends, and the one for the rest of us. So, I mean, the fact that Senator Schumer was on the steps of the Supreme Court threatening Justice Kavanaugh, saying he had unleashed the whirlwind, he would pay the price, he wouldn't even know what hit him. You know, Harris, had a congressional Republican leader said that, first of all, I don't think that leader would be in Congress, and he certainly would have been elected leader, as Chuck Schumer was elected the majority leader of the Senate after he issued that vile threat against the Supreme Court. So this is part and parcel of the Democrat tactics, Democrat Party, and our Justice Department is doing nothing to enforce the law. It's very sad.
You know, I don't think any of us ever thought that we would see a situation where the soft on crime bled all the way to the top, because that's what we're looking at, Senator. We're looking at people who don't care about that 18 U.S. Code 1507 or 1503. They don't care about the federal law, and they sit at the Justice Department and inside the White House. Is that soft on crime or something I'm missing?
No, it's definitely soft on crime. And again, just going back to what now Majority Leader Schumer said on the steps of the Supreme Court, he was issuing a direct threat against Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Gorsuch. And the media obviously wasn't upset about it. His Democrat colleagues in the Senate weren't upset about it. They elected him leader. Again, turn the tables. There is no way the Republican would survive that. That Republican leader would no longer be in Congress, and we certainly wouldn't have elected that person leader. So, no, it's a complete double standard, but it's made possible by the biased media and their complicity in this.
You know, I wonder what happens when you lose the American public on this. According to New Fox polling, the majority of Americans say they believe it is wrong to protest outside the homes of U.S. Supreme Court justices. That group includes a majority of Republicans, but 58% of Democrats say they are okay with the protests. What do you make of it?
Well, they're listening to their leaders. They're listening to their leaders who wanted to fundamentally transform America. I often ask the question, do you even like, much less love, something you want to fundamentally transform? Of course, now we're seeing what that looks like. Open borders, 40-year high inflation, record gasoline prices, rising crime, and now the intimidation of Supreme Court justices. And again, Democrat leaders are fine with that. Now, I do believe, Harris, that the vast majority of Democrats love this country. Many are concerned about the path we're on. So my message to Democrats, independents, if you love this country, if you're concerned about the direction this country has taken, the path we're on, join us. Let us work together to unify and heal this nation, save America.
The White House is trying out a new talking point, and unfortunately, it doesn't really match up with the data economy experts are working with. Watch.
I expect the economy to slow. It's natural now that we expect a transition to steady and stable growth, but I don't think a recession is at all inevitable.
Inflation obviously is happening globally. A recession is not inevitable.
Not only is a recession not inevitable, but what we as policymakers can do is take steps to build on our unique strengths in the American economy and try to get to that stable and steady growth that we all want to get to as quickly as possible.
Okay. These people at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue are sitting somewhere dark in a kitchen, apparently alone, because if they simply turn on the lights and look outside, even the Treasury Secretary under Obama has a very different take. Watch.
If you look at what's happened in markets, if you look at the relative levels of interest rates of different durations, the dominant probability would be that by the end of next year, we would be seeing a recession in the American economy.
In other words, if you look at the facts, let's talk about the dominant probability of a recession. The Wall Street Journal surveyed top economists who months ago had said we had a slim chance of sliding into a recession. Now, they put that probability of that happening within the next year at 44%. So, Senator Johnson, what are people waking up about to this?
Well, first of all, it's very hard not to recognize inflation when you go to the grocery store or fill up your car with gas. So again, even though you have a complicit media, they can't hide the disaster that is Democrat governance right now when it comes to our economy. But these individuals obviously got the talking points. One of the problems with liberalism is it just simply denies reality. These are the same people that were saying that inflation would be transitory. You know, Harris, the fact of the matter is our economy ought to be booming. I was shocked first quarter actually had negative growth. Now there are predictions it will have zero growth, possibly negative growth, which would be a definition of a recession. But our economy ought to be booming. Our economy was sloshing around with all these printed dollars. There was so much pent-up demand. It was Democrat policies that pretty well put a kibosh on a strong economy. And again, they won't admit they're wrong. That they will not accept responsibility for this, but they are the root cause of our economic ills.
To borrow some lingo from the Vice President, Kamala Harris, as she's always looking for root causes down south of the border for the border crisis. I do want to get to this. Treasury Secretary Yellen, who in recent days has apologized for not even knowing what she was talking about with inflation. She also said this about the Biden administration's energy policies while pushing for climate change. It's rich. Watch.
I don't think that policies are responsible for what's happening in the oil market. The way in which we can assure reasonable energy expenses for households is to move to renewables to address climate change as a medium-term matter. That's the way to free us.
Okay, let's just take a look at the reality. Still, I mean, we're just right up against that record level, $5 national average for a gallon of gas at $4.98. I fully expect that she'll be apologizing in some way, shape, or form for not understanding that either. Senator?
Well, we were energy independent. That was a bipartisan goal for decades. We finally achieved it under the previous administration. And then President Biden took office and he declared a war on fossil fuels, canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, makes it very difficult for people to utilize those leases that are available, but they can't get the permits to actually drill on those lands. And so this is something that Democrats and President Biden caused. They are the root cause to open borders, to 40-year high inflation, to record gasoline and high energy prices. They're the ones that caused it. This didn't just happen. So hopefully Americans can look past the media that is complicit in carrying this narrative.
Some in the Senate with you would say that there's an agenda afoot. Senator John Barrasso hit Democrats for pushing Americans to drive electric cars. Let's watch that together, Senator.
What the administration, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Transportation, and what Joe Biden want them to spend their money on, John, are electric vehicles. It's a smug superiority of some of these to just say, well, if you realize we're going to save the world, doesn't matter what happens to you. You can't afford it. Tough.
Boy, we're a far cry away from I feel your pain for Democrats, huh?
Well, they're also not recognizing the reality that they won't allow us to mine the rare earth minerals we'll need, so we'll be dependent on China on that. We don't have enough to really produce the number of electric vehicles they're contemplating. So again, they're just denying reality. They have these narratives of this wonderful future based on wind and solar power, and it's just not possible. At some point in time it may be, but it isn't now, and their policies are killing this economy.
I want to ask you a quick question before I let you go, because I was reading this morning, Germany, I mean, when you look at Europe and Russia cutting off the natural gas, they're now going to use coal more than ever. And so Biden has single-handedly potentially put the world in a position, right? Because he says we lead the way. Are we also going to maybe call Senator Manchin in West Virginia and say, maybe we can help you resurrect your coal industry there that so many, including Obama, wanted to crush?
You know, at some point in time, we're going to have to realize we need energy to power our economy. And right now, energy is primarily provided by fossil fuel. Listen, if you're concerned about climate change, why aren't we pushing nuclear? You know, there's better technology available for nuclear power, smaller nuclear power plants that could be a lot safer than the power plants of old.
That's a great point. So, why aren't they?
Because environmentalists don't want it. Environmentalists don't want to, again, mine for rare earth minerals. They're just completely denying reality that the policies they're pushing are completely impractical and are harming our economy and harming real people.
We are having some serious grid issues out west as that heat wave pulled on through. And that's every summer. I don't know how they're going to plug in these electric cars. Is anybody gaming it out? Senator Johnson, it is always great to have you in focus. Thank you.